playing and flying around during this pandemic. I don't know if I would have made that sacrifice. Obviously, I was down in spring training right as things broke, and the guys wanted to stay in camp and try to get that work to, because we thought the season was going to come right back. But having those 4 months off and trying to get back, I feel like I would have probably opted out of this one and been watching the guys like I am now, to be honest. I mean, that's the way I have to answer that, because I know myself, and I don't think I would have been able to get ready to play, in this type of environment, to be honest.
I really think that's that's a smart way to answer it, and really the only way CC can answer it. He's got five children, 5 siblings, and a wife and family that stays with him, and he's got significant responsibility. And for him to get COVID somewhere or take a chance and bring it home just wouldn't work. I think your mom lives close by. She's always there. Is that right,
Yeah.
CC? And he couldn't handle something like that. So I certainly respect that opinion. For myself, as a single guy, I probably could have busted through it. At the same time, I was kind of glad that I kind of fit into a space where, my age kept me away. And then, of course, the travel across country would have been, uncomfortable with all the people not wanting to wear a mask and wearing a mask and that kind of thing. And so I'm kind of glad that I was not necessarily banned from the team, but I was in an age group, being over 70, where, it just wasn't as healthy for me to be there. And, on top of all of that, if I was a player, I might have tried it. At the same time, I think I would have to have been in the environment a little bit closer to give you a better, more true, honest answer of how I would respond, because it's something to where, minorities were more impacted, and people in certain areas in the density of New York, where it was, they had the highest population and the highest percentages per capita across the United States of having COVID-19. So it really was not the place to be. So I honestly feel like I more than likely probably would not have played.
And I could be honest too. And, obviously me and Reggie are, special assistant to Cashman's, and we spend a lot of time around the team. And I was there early in the season, and, just being home and, going different places and being around, I didn't want to be out and then go down to the stadium. And then, the way things were outbreaking early in the season, I just kind of stayed away, just from the simple fact I didn't want to, put the guy's season in jeopardy. So just the way I've been kind of being precautious and going through my life, I just tried to stay away from the team and just kind of watch on TV, just so, I wouldn't put these guys in a bad situation and, have somebody get sick, and then, it messes up the team season.
Exactly. You get an understanding that when you get past the game gets by you, and you turn it over to the people behind you, you're not the most important piece. You get your food last, you sit on the plane where it's open, you do things for the players, and you do your best to stay out of the way and keep their environment with the least amount of congestion that you possibly can. And me going in the clubhouse, do I have a mask? Did I get checked out today? Same way with CC. It gets to be cumbersome, so we're almost better staying away.
Completely agree. We have our first fan question. This comes from Melanie. What do you guys think about the rule changes made this season being adopted permanently? So 16 teams qualifying for the playoffs, starting extra innings with a man on second, and 7-inning doubleheaders. Whoever wants to go first, comment.
Go ahead, big fella. I know I'm gonna follow you down the alley, because I know I feel the same way you do.
I don't really like the doubleheader situation. The 7 innings. I just feel like that's too short. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but in a big league game, so many things happen later in the game. So if they go back to 9-inning doubleheaders, I mean, I would be good with that. The runner on second base, I actually don't have a problem with. I would like to start that after maybe the 11th inning. Just because you get so many guys that pitch well in the extra innings, or hold the bullpen over, that have to get sent down. the next day because you need a fresh arm. Maybe that'll eliminate some of that, where those guys don't get rewarded. They actually get punished for pitching well in those situations. So, I mean, I kind of like that, where you're not playing 17, 18, 19 inning games, and, everybody kind of, gets a better opportunity to score later in the game.
I'll
right, CC.
Certainly, I don't like the 7-inning games. I think guys are strong enough to play 2 9-inning games. So I'll take the exception this year because the things happened all of a sudden and they got so many games. There's 60 games within, I don't know whether it's 65 days, but there weren't the normal days off that were in there. It was really tight and really hard for the guys, burdened them, if you will, for the everyday player. At the same time, I don't want to see 7-inning games. I'd like to go back to 9-inning games, and doubleheaders once in a while aren't that bad. There's enough guys on the roster, enough players to be able to make that work. I don't like putting the guy on second base. As CC says, it does hurt the relief pitchers. A guy can come in and give a base hit. It just has to be so fine in a situation like that. The margin of error, I think, is almost too much. So I like the fact that we could have played a few more innings. I really would like to see nobody on second base. But as CC said, if you could do it in the 11th, or give them 2 innings, give them 3 innings, then we put a guy on second base. But as he said, I like to give a little bit more credit to the relievers, give them a little more presence, if you will, more importance, respect their job a little bit more. I like the way that would be. If you want to have a guy stand, be on second base after the 12th inning, I'd be okay with that. But I don't like the changes. I don't even like the ball 4 pointed to first base because CC played 20, I played 20, 21, and I've seen guys throw the ball over the pitcher, over the catcher, over the hitter, and I've seen guys hit the ball trying to get an intentional walk. Well, I put a ball in play once in Oakland to hit a fly ball, and then I think there was one player that hit a home run with an intentional walk sometime. But I just like to see the unusualness of the game. I don't like to see
that's what makes it interesting, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what do you guys think about 16 teams qualifying for the playoffs?
Just any 16? 16?
Yeah. So with 16 teams qualifying for the playoffs this year, what are your thoughts on having that being permanently adopted?
I kind of like it, but it'll be hard. Like this, playing 3 games on the road thing is tough. I mean, that seems like a kind of like a unfair disadvantage that you have to go play 3 games on the road. If they could figure it out where if it was something quick, where it would have to be a 3-game series, obviously, but you have to have a day in there for travel. But you don't want the teams that are have a bye to have to wait a week to play in the playoffs. So yeah, if they could figure out a way where you can play them just quick back to back, maybe at a neutral site, maybe if they figured that out, then yeah, I think that'd be fun for the fans.
CC too, the only time that we would have that trouble or baseball would have that problem is when they had coast to coast.
Mm-hmm.
We could play day game Monday and Tuesday, and then you play a night in Chicago, and then you play a night game in New York on Wednesday,
mm-hmm.
and everybody would be game for that. So I like either a day off between there where teams do have a home game. I don't like, as CC said, I don't like that 3-game away on the road. It's a little bit too lopsided, and I don't like 16 teams. I think I would go for 12, not the extra 4. It's a little too many. I don't want to see a team with a 500 record or below 500 record be in the postseason.
All right, so Reggie, let me ask you, which player on the current Yankees team right now?
You just want me to.
I'm gonna keep you talking. Which player on the current Yankees team would you have loved to have on your team in your Yankees days?
Well, it's pretty easy to say. I think I really agree with so many people that DJ LeMahieu
I
is
knew you were going to say that.
he's just a great player in any year. I mean, he is, you get a guy when you're playing baseball or you walking with CC or you watch CC or you're doing something in the game and you walk by a guy and you don't say his name, but you say, "Hey, pro, how you doing?" And that is such a compliment to a player. And that's what you call DJ LeMahieu. He's just goes about his business. I mean, you can't miss him. The guy's 6'4". I mean, he's a big dude, but he fits in, he blends in. He's like wallpaper when he's in there. He's just part of the team and part of our success and part of the image of who we are. You look around the clubhouse, and Cece's been there for 20 years. I've been there for 35. And you can look around the clubhouse. You can look in the minor leagues. You can look in the big leagues. You can look at other players and the things that a guy that CC or myself will say, or Derek Jeter and say, see that guy over there? He could have played with us. He's a Yankee. And there are players that are like that. DJ LeMahieu is a pro, and he's a guy that you point at and say, that's the epitome of a Yankee.
Wow. CC, now vice versa kind of thing. Is there a former Yankees player that you didn't get a chance to play with that you would have loved to have been teammates with? Besides Reggie, of course, we know that.
Let me think. I mean, I always consider myself to be like a throwback player. So, I mean, I would have loved to play on some of those teams that he played on in the 70s, I've always considered myself to be that type of, older school player, I guess, like hard-nosed, like the guy that he was describing, talking about DJ. So for me, it would have just been fun to be on some of those teams that he was on in the 70s. Those Yankee teams, those Bronx Burning teams that we heard about. So I would have loved to be just a fly on the wall in those clubhouses and maybe even, I would like to think that I could have pitched back then and contributed on those teams for sure.
CC could have pitched in any era. All great players. I feel that whether it's Mike Trout or DJ LeMahieu, you can go to Mickey Mantle and Derek Jeter and fill in those eras of players. Tino Martinez, the good players play in any era, and they're good and they're great in any era. I've always thought about if I could have played with Mickey Mantle, but with Yogi Berra and Roger Maris in the outfield, I might have been on the bench. So I'd be careful who I say I want to play, but certainly you can. I think there's so many players that Derek Jeter was a guy that maybe was not the best player in baseball. But at the time that he played, he had probably a 12-year span where everybody would have wanted to be on his team. Mm-hmm. He was just that kind of play. And there are players like that, that you just want to be around. CC was one of those type of players. Mariano Rivera was that type of player. Greg Maddux was that type of player. And you just enjoyed so much. The guy Mookie Betts is that type of player. I don't really know Mookie that well, but you can look at him as a player, and you can see inside his heart. You know that he's a grinder, and you want to be associated with that.
Absolutely. Well, now that we're talking about your guys' playing days, let's talk about career highlights and memories for you guys. So, CC, we're going to start with you. Okay. Can you talk to us about the day that you were drafted? Walk us through what it was like for you, and the feeling of becoming a Major League Baseball player.
Yeah, so I grew up in the Bay Area, small town called named Vallejo, California, and it's a baseball town. So me being able to have the opportunity to be seen by so many scouts and stuff is really just a testament to the town. And the day I got drafted was my senior year of high school. I remember waking up that morning. My mom asked me if I wanted to go to school. Obviously, back then there was no MLB network, and you just waited for a phone call. It wasn't even really on the internet. So I remember getting up and telling my mom I wanted to go to school. Got to school and so we had first and second period, and we had a break in between first and second period. And I remember I was walking through the quad. I was going to my next class, and my best friend, he was my catcher at the time, and he was waiting to get drafted too. And he ran up to me, he was like, "You ain't heard yet? Like the Reds drafted you with the 8th pick. Like, what are you still doing here?" And I was like freaking out. I was like, "What? You kidding me?" Like I started going to the office, like, "Nah, I'm just playing with you." So like I have
really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. So like I'll get into my next class. I'm in art class, halfway through art class, third period, and I hear it come over the loudspeaker that I had just got drafted by the Indians with the 20th pick. And I get down to the office, my mom is there, and we go home that day, and we have like a big party. Basically, my whole family's there. The whole town comes over, and it was a surreal feeling. It's still surreal. It's almost like growing up the way I did and being drafted in the first round is like hitting the lottery. And that's the only way I can describe it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yo, that's really cool
Reggie,
stuff,
what about you?
man. To find that out in school.
Well, I had a little different experience. I was recognized as the best player in the amateur draft, and I was dating a Mexican girl, and my middle name was Martinez. Cece, I don't know if you've ever heard this story,
No.
But the baseball coach was a guy named Bobby Winkles, who coached afterwards in the big leagues. He just passed away about a year or so ago. He had 92 years old. And he called me into his office and he said, "Reggie, you're going to get drafted, and I think you should go and take the money," because we were poor. And I'm sure Cece was a billionaire when he was a young kid. He was a rich family. Leo. But, and so my bonus was $106,000 in 1966. And the coach of the baseball team said, "Reggie, you're not going to be the number one pick. The New York Mets aren't going to draft you because they think you'll be trouble in New York because you're dating out of your race." And I was like, "Really?" I said, "Well, you know, my middle name is Martinez and my girlfriend is Mexican." They said, "Yes, I know that, but that's still what they think." And so I left the office and I just didn't get it. He said, "You're not going to be the number one pick. You should be." So I left his office, and that was true. The Mets did not draft me. They drafted a catcher from Riverside, California, and he played about 5 or 6 years, got hurt, and obviously was successful. But I would have been on the same team with Seaver, Matlack, Kuzman, Strawberry, Gooden. I'd have been on that team with the Mets, but that was my experience. It was just a weird thing because you think you'd gotten away from racism, but it reared its ugly head there, and so that was my memory of being drafted. I was supposed to be number one. I went number 2. It was weird.
Wow.
Well, you know what? Everything happens for a reason. You went on to be Mr. October. So it was a line for you, that's for sure. So let's talk about first memories of putting on the pinstripes. So Cece, you came from Cleveland, and Reggie coming from Oakland. So can you guys just talk about, putting on the pinstripes for the first time? What was that feeling like? And just walk us through that.
For me, it wasn't even really putting on the pinstripes. It was just we were on the road my very first start, and we were in Baltimore. And obviously, I mean, I signed a big contract in the off season and went through spring training and thought what I knew what it felt like to be a Yankee and all of these things. Like, everything's starting to get normal. I'm a Yankee now. We go through spring training, everything's good. I'm feeling good. I'm about to make my first start, and then I see Jeter walk by. He's got the gray uniform on, and I see A-Rod walk by, and then Mo walks by. I'm getting goosebumps right now, and it's just like, oh, like this is real. Like I'm really here now. And it wasn't even the pinstripes. It was just the New York across the front. Like so surreal to be able to put on this uniform for so many years and play in this great organization. It was I don't know. It was crazy because my dad always told me from the time I was a kid that George Steinbrenner, when you're a free agent, is gonna come and get you, and he's gonna sign you to his big deal. You're gonna pitch in New York. And for me, coming from, like I said, a small town in California and then playing in Cleveland and Milwaukee, I never really dreamt about playing in a big market. It was always, I'm gonna stay in Cleveland my whole career. And then when I got traded to Milwaukee, it was like, okay, well, maybe I can stay here. But signing that contract coming to New York was a shock. It was a big deal. And that very first day, it was like I had signed right then, and I had to go out and prove it. But it was actually just seeing that New York across the front on a great uniform and watching the guys walk by. I mean, I just named 3 Hall of Famers right there, and I got a chance to play with so many in this uniform.
I would say that when we got CC, I remember seeing CC in Winter Haven when he was in his second year of baseball and pitching at 6'7" and 300 pounds and young, 22, 23 years old and pitching for Cleveland. And I went up there to see one of our games, and he was pitching on the backfield. And Ray Negron took me over for a walk somewhere, and he said, "You need to see this guy, CC Sabathia." I said, "CC who?" CC Sabathia. I said, "Where is he from? This and that. What is it?" He said, "Man, he's his brother from California." I said, "Well, let me go watch him pitch." And I don't know if CC knew I was around then, but I went over and saw him and was certainly impressed because he really threw hard. Then when he came to us, he had a tremendous winter pitching for Milwaukee and had impressed really our organization and all of baseball the way he had given of himself to his team, where he pitched a couple times on 2 days rest, 3 days rest. Is that right, CC? Down the stretch, I want to say you went 9-1. Is that right?
And down that stretch, I think I went 11-2 or 10-2.
Yeah, and so and he I don't know if he in the 12 or 13 starts or whatever it was, he had maybe 8 or 10 complete games. I mean, he was just a real horse, and it was a person that we were looking for with the Yankees at that particular time. And it was a significant move for us as a team. It was significantly prestigious for us. And he came to the ball club. I remember I enjoyed just watching him pitch, watching him warm up, watching him go down to the bullpen and do his thing and do his routine. It was a really enjoyable thing for me because I got to see someone that had care and super talent. And he always, for some reason, when you kind of gravitate toward these gentle giants, and he was that type of person. I remember meeting him in the training room, and we were lifting weights and doing stuff. And he said, "Hey, Reggie Jack, yeah, man, I know you play a little football, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah, I did. I was a tailback and a safety, and I was a pretty good speed guy. I ran a 4.5 40, which was fast back then." And I looked at him, and guy's 6'7", 300, and I said, "You must have been a tight end." And he looked down at me and he said, "Oh, come on, Reg, you know I was a tackle, bro." So it was just a nice experience with all of that.
But Lacey, the one thing though is like that winter when I became a free agent, I go to Vegas to meet with the Yankees to maybe to talk about coming here. So Cashman brings Reggie and Joe Girardi. They have this whole presentation. They have the stadium's about to be brand new, and they're trying to show me this whole video. The only thing I want to do is ask Reggie about everything about his career and talk about the A's. I grew up a big A's fan, so like him coming to that meeting was a huge distraction because I didn't get to see anything about the new stadium or anything about the Yankees because all I wanted to know was just everything about him. So it ended up being, him coming to that meeting was really the reason why I signed. And getting back to, why you want to play baseball and, if you sign up and you want to win championships and you want to put yourself in the best position to win every year. And him coming to that meeting just let me know like what type of organization and where I was headed, so that was a memory I'll never forget for sure.
Wow.
Putting on the Yankees pinstripes for me, and I had people push me toward the Yankees because they looked at the Yankees' history. They looked at the great players that had played there. They were already in their 20s of world championships that they had. And I was fortunate enough to have played in 3 World Series there in a very short time, had won 2. And we had a great team there. We had great pitching, a great team, great everybody. And our owner was a guy that just constantly stepped out and wanted to make sure that the Yankees were a great brand in a great city. And he was more concerned with the Yankees being the team that represented the city of New York and was a great team. And so his support for me is what I remember so much about the Yankees. When I signed my contract there, it wasn't the most money, but I remember shaking his hand. My father was there. We were in Chicago, and I got offered more money by Montreal. I got offered $1 million a year by Montreal, and at that time, my contract with the Yankees was $600,000. The Dodgers came in and offered more, and so did the Padres. And the people that I was people that were handling my contract, and really my dad was involved as well. He just told me, said, Reggie, you need to go to New York. You need to be in New York with the Yankees for your career where it is today. It's the place for you. You need to compete against the Yankees' history and compete with the Yankees' future. So it was a pretty easy decision. I really wasn't concerned about the money at the time. Whatever the money was, it was going to be a lot, and I was only talking about $600,000-$700,000 a year. I probably made 3-4 times off the field than I made on the field, but it was an experience for me that really benefited my career, changed my life.
So, I mean, you guys just talked about so many different things, right? Memories and stories that I think from anyone else's perspective could probably be one of their favorite memories. But is there a specific memory, or when you think back of your career as one of the your most memorable moments that you could choose from? I know that there's a lot, but if there's one that you could choose from, what would it be as a New York Yankee?
Mine would be winning the World Series. Just, the last out, Mo getting that last out, running out on the field. That's something that you dream about as a kid, and having the opportunity to do it in the Pinstripes, it was a dream come true. So I mean, 1,000% that and watching Jeter get 3,000 hits on a grand slam. That he never hit balls in left field, and then he decides to hit a grand slam off David Price in left field was just mind-boggling. So I think those two things, getting a chance to be around for those two things were probably the most memorable things in my career.
I can remember, as CeCe said, there are things that just stand out. I was very fortunate too to have been working for a team where I was my favorite player was Derek Jeter, and I got paid to watch him play. And as CeCe said, I remember when he broke the record for Lou Gehrig's hits, and then he broke the record. I mean, then he got his 3,000th hit. I remember the day that he broke his ankle, and really that was what started to end his career. I saw A-Rod get 3,000, saw A-Rod hit home run number 600. I saw CeCe strike out his 3,000th batter as one of the three lefties or two? Three left-handed pitchers in the major leagues in Arizona. I was able to be at that. So there were quite a few moments for me that I got to see the great Mariano Rivera and get his 600 save and just set record after record after record. And I can remember 2-3 times where Mo would come in and throw 9 pitches. That doesn't happen often, but I can remember seeing that and seeing those kind of moments. And so they all are special places for me. And then I didn't even say I hit the 3 homers in one game. I almost didn't even mention it, but it was some of those other things I had a chance to be around, be with, and the championships and the things that the players did, and being able to stand on the outside as an observer, as a retired player, and just kind of see it continue. It's a very special place, and I'm proud to have been a part of it.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to ask you guys another fan question. This comes from Jeff. How do you guys think the game has changed since you played, and what would you have done to adapt, if anything?
Well, I mean, just in the time that, I got to the big leagues till I retired last year, I think it just watching the game, I think everything's changed. I mean, when I first came up, guys didn't strike out, and, everybody, with 2 strikes would change his swing and try to just put the ball in play, until where, the last couple of years I pitched where, guys didn't care if they strike out, and they didn't never change their swing, and they just trying to hit the ball in the air and as far as they can all the time. So, you just watch pitchers go from, being able to spot up, throw the balls on the corners, to just trying to throw 100 miles an hour right down the middle. Like, it's a completely different game than when I first came up, and it was definitely time for me to get out. Obviously, I feel like, I would have been able to adjust and pitch in today's game, but it's a lot harder, and it's a lot different, just because the hitters, their philosophy is a lot different.
And access to more technology too, right?
Yeah, I mean, in trash cans and stuff too.
Would you say trash cans?
Yeah.
No
Well,
comment.
what's it called? The analytics are a great part of the game, but you need to be able to read a man's heart and read a man's mind, and read what's in his gut. Those are some of the most important ingredients that are there. When a guy like CC pitched, I played with a couple of guys like that, Ronnie Guidry and Catfish Hunter. And I could come into the ballpark, and I lockered right next to Catfish. He was a locker away from me. Guidry was on the other side of the room. And if I came in coughing and hacking and spitting in the trash can, Catfish had an empty locker next to me. It was an empty locker between him and I. You know how that works, CC, and the big guys on the other side of you. And Catfish looked at me when I was hacking and sniffling and blowing my nose, and he'd look at me and say, I'm pitching today, don't you? I said, yeah, man. I said, you ain't sick, are you? You played yesterday. And I was almost like scared. I didn't want to get my butt whipped. And you do the same thing with Guidry. I might go and throw up in the bathroom or not be feeling good, and Guidry would be in the bathroom. All of a sudden, he'd come out, close the door, and say, hey, man, was that you? I said, yeah, man. I don't feel too good. He said, well, I'm pitching today, don't you? She said, you need at least DH. You're going to be in it. That's the way it was back then. You might get a whooping by somebody. You better be in the lineup. But they had, like, I think a lot of times now we have a scheduled day. I think Kyle Hash.
Higashioka.
Help me.
Higashioka.
Yeah, Kyle hit 3 home runs last week, and then I think he didn't play the next day. Right?
Yeah.
But I'd have got suspended because I was going to fight somebody. So the game has changed. It's very, very different.
Very different. Cece, Alan wants to ask you, do you see any differences in the attitudes of today's young pitchers about working out and preparing for games compared to when you started your career?
No, not at all. I mean, if anything, these guys are they're more locked in. They're more in tune of what's going on. Obviously, like Reggie said, the analytics drive a lot of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Me sitting on the other side of it now, I can understand it. But as a player, I really wasn't into the analytics just because I didn't come up with it. So, I wasn't I wasn't studying as much as these guys are. I would just go off a feel.
Yeah.
I'm throwing my cutter in the righties, 2-seamer in the lefties, and I'm throwing a backdoor slider. So I never really changed how I pitched based on who I was facing. I'm just gonna go out and do what pitch to my strengths, and if you can beat me that day, you're gonna beat me. So, but no, I mean, these guys today, I mean, they come in, they get their work in, they spend hours studying and making sure. I mean, even now with all the stuff that they have with the Rapsodo and all the slow motion cameras, you can fix your pitch grips and the way you're releasing the ball, so fast now. Everything can come so quick. So no, these guys are locked in and very in tune to their bodies and what's going on and how they want to feel and how they want the ball coming out of their hand.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation, Lacey, in spring training this year with Garrett Cole, and the depth of how he thought about things. I was incredibly impressed. I think he talked about spin rates, and he talked about where the ball would be up on a particular hitter, et cetera. And at the same time, I think whether you were CC or whether you were Bobby Gibson, and CC was a different pitcher for the last 5 years of his career, because for the first 13 or 14, he just mowed you down. And then, yeah, I remember times when CC would pitch that he pitched in right up to the 7th, 8th inning, and they would say to him, "You're done." And in that inning, he was going to start at 97 and finish at 99 and be back and then go on up into the clubhouse. But as hard as they threw, or as hard as he threw, whether it was Gibson or John Smoltz or the guys in that era and his era that threw hard, or whether you went all the way back to Koufax and Gibson, they had an idea of where to pitch people and what they were trying to do. You couldn't stay just on a certain part of the plate if you're facing a Willie McCovey or a Manny Ramirez or I think it's Jose Soto or Juan Soto, the kid with Nationals. Mm-hmm. The players are too good for no matter who you
are. Reggie, I'm going to keep you talking. Monty and Darcy, two fans, are wondering, after your 3 home run game in the World Series, who coined the nickname Mr. October for you?
Really, the first guy that said that was Thurman Munson back in 1977. And then before that, I had a good series in 73, had won the MVP award, and had a couple of good games back-to-back against Matt Lacken's Seaver. Seaver pitched into the 8th inning, and I was 3 for 4, drove in 3 runs, and we beat him 4-2 or something like that. And Joe Garagiola called me the Autumn Child. I don't know what I was playing well during that particular time. And then about a few years later in New York, my first year with the Yankees, I hit home run number 30 in Detroit and drove in my 100th run that day. And Thurman was in a bad mood. He was a few lockers away from me. And it was October the 1st, October 1st, October 2nd. And hit 2 home runs. And we came into the clubhouse, and Thurman did not feel like talking to the media. And he was the captain, so they always went to him first. And he said, "I don't feel like talking today. Go down and talk to Mr. October." And it was coined really from that.
Very casual, too.
He said it casually, and it stuck.
Wow. We got another fan question. This is from Ryan. And this, you guys take it and answer it in your own way. When you're not doing well in a game, so maybe not throwing strikes, or if you're in a slump, how do you get out of that rut and then back in the game? So how do you change your mindset? And you could do it personally, or you can generalize your answer. CC, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was horrible in the way that I always thought I was 1 pitch away. Like, I can give up 7 runs in 1 inning, had a bases loaded, but I'm 1 pitch away from getting a double play. Like, we right back in the game. So I was weird in that way where I always was positive, like in my mind. It may not have looked like that, like while I was out there, but I always felt like I could turn this around. Like, in some way I can get us back into this. So I was always trying to fight and claw to get back into games. And even when I was up and I was pitching well, I was always, to me, I felt like I was always trying to fight and claw to keep that edge and make sure the other team stayed down. So I was always like on edge. And that was the reason why I was ready to be done. I mean, I felt like I did that for 19 years, and, that anxiety and, all that building up and, trying to pitch with that, it takes its toll on your body and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, but I was always positive. Self-talk was always positive for me.
I got to tell you, I had some funny moments. We were playing in Oakland in the foul territory there. It's so big and so wide, and I was struggling so bad. But in those days, they'll keep you in the lineup because they figure Reggie, you got, the image of, you're still a threat. You're going to be in the lineup, and they didn't care what you were hitting or anything. You were in the lineup. And I remember playing against the Detroit Tigers, and the catcher was there, Lance Parrish, and I popped up a ball to the third base side, and I hoped it would stay fair so I could get out of the batter's box because I didn't know what I was doing. And I said to myself, "Damn, I'm Reggie Jackson, and I don't know what's going on up here." So I haven't had those situations like that. And another strange thing that happened to me. This isn't quite for a slump. The worst slump I ever had is I was 0 for 19. I was at home plate. I was really going bad. Lance Parrish catcher again. And I said to him, I said, "Man, I'm going so bad." I said, "If you tell me what's coming, I just want to look like a ball player." I said, "I'll promise to hit a ground ball to the second baseman. And even if I get a hit, I'll turn right when I get to first." And he looked at me and said, "You must be crazy. You've been killing us. We're going to still try to get your butt out." Except he didn't say butt. He's still going to try to get you out. So sometimes I struggle. And then at the same time, I just kind of made fun of it or had fun with myself. But I had some crazy times, but wonderful times.
That's funny.
All right, we got the next fan question is from Josh. What current active player reminds you the most of the way you approached and played the game?
I'll let you answer that, Reg.
Oh, man. Gosh.
It could be, a player throughout Major League Baseball, or if, a current Yankees player comes to mind. Yeah, it's a tough question, I know.
Yeah, so that's a weird question.
Yeah,
Reggie, I know that you were mentioning besides
Judge,
DJ LeMahieu, you were talking about Betts.
Mookie Betts. Yeah, there's just so many players. I feel like I'm really very fortunate. I was a pretty good player, and I was a great fan, and I just love the players that were, I guess, the pure studs of the game, guys that would go 9 innings like CC, throw 135 pitches, and be out there till the end. You knew that when you played against a Seaver or a CC or a Garrett Cole or a Justin Verlander, to bring it up to, you knew you had all afternoon with that guy. You were going to have lunch with Tom Seaver for 3 hours. And when the game was over, he's still going to be there, whether it was 2-0 or 6-5. And so are the things that, I admired. I played my whole career against a guy by the name of Jack Morris, who's in the Hall of Fame now. And it was such a pleasure to face him. Same way when I played against Jimmy Palmer, I'd come up in the 9th inning, might be 1 run down or a tie game, and I'm the hitter. They got to get by me. And there'd be many times when those guys get on the mound and look at me and go, "Me and you." And just a wonderful thing to see, and a wonderful, piece to be a part of. I have admiration for a guy like Tino Martinez that I watch play, and I certainly have admiration for Aaron Judge, which we all know he needs to stay on the field, but and when he can, it's just will be an impressive performance that we can see. I was very fortunate to have played against the great Frank Robinson and some of those great players. I caught Mays and Aaron toward the end of their careers, but oh boy, were they a pleasure to watch. And I was kind of a counterpart to Johnny Bench, the great National League catcher and just such a great player. Enjoyed watching guys like Greg Maddux and those guys. And so I had more of players that I thought I was like in how they went about playing the game rather than somebody that so much played like me. Since I've been with the Yankees so long, I have favorites that I like to watch, and certainly from from Derek to Mariano to CC to those guys that put the uniform on, and I watched them go day in and day out and not have excuses and not complain and be there for you at all times. Don't get sick, don't get headaches, don't have toenails cut out or whatever it may be. They're there to answer the bell and post. I remember playing against Pete Rose and watching Jeter, and you go look at the statistics and you see the days off. So it's not so much the players that reminded me of me as to how I played, but it was the admiration I had for a guy to answer the phone. He call him, he answers. Yeah. Not, oh, he ain't home, he's not there, it keeps ringing, he's not coming. It's those guys that when you look at their record over 20 years and you'll see Pete Rose 162, 162, 162, 159, 159, 158, 160, 161, 163. Only played 162. But it was that player that I admired and tried to be like.
Yeah, I think just going back to that, I think the one person I feel like I always was trying to be growing up in the Bay Area was Dave Stewart. He was the person that like looked like me, that stood out on the mound. I felt like that was commanding the baseball game, and he was always who I was trying to be. So when I was a kid playing in the backyard, it was never like 3-2 bottom of the ninth, and I'm like the hitter up trying to hit the home run. It was 3-2 bottom of the ninth, and I'm like on the mound to make the pitch to win the World Series. So I always found myself in Dave Stewart, and I got a chance to meet him when I was 9 years old, and it kind of just changed the course of my life. Like I literally wanted to be exactly like him after I met him. So, that was the one guy that I always tried to emulate. One guy that I like to watch pitch now, I don't know so much if he reminds me of myself, but Justice Sheffield, the kid, the lefty that we traded to Seattle. We have a great relationship. I love watching him pitch. He's been pitching better as of late. Just having that young guy and being able to mentor him is a lot of fun. Jordan Montgomery is another one too. Me and Monty, that's like my little brother. We're super close, and I'm always watching. I think I'm a little harder on Monty than I am on Justice though, because I just want him to be so great. So, but I love watching both of those guys pitch right now.
Yeah, there's players. Excuse me, Lace. There's players like Andujar and Gleyber Torres that I've seen them when they were babies in the minor leagues, and Gary Sanchez, that you just gravitate to them, you root for them, et cetera. And so, it's just a really nice feeling for me to see them be successful. When CC talks about Dave Stewart, when I played in Oakland, Dave Stewart lived in Oakland. He lived over on 66th and Seminary. And as I went to the ballpark, he would always be on the corner with his bicycle. And I would pick him up with his bicycle. He'd put the front tire in the back seat and the rest of the bike in the trunk. And he came over to the ballpark, and then I could never leave him tickets. He said, I want to sneak in over the right field. My buddies and I get in, and we get the balls. We get the balls over there. He was 8 or 9 years old, and when he was 20 or 21, I was with the California Angels toward the end of my career, and Dave was pitching for the Dodgers. And I didn't even know it until he came up and introduced himself to me, and he said, Reggie, remember me? I'm Dave Stewart, the kid you used to pick up in the ballpark and put my bicycle in the back. I used to watch your black 72 Grand Prix until you came outside. And I've known him ever since. It's just have a wonderful relationship with Dave Stewart.
Wow. It's like a full circle moment, right?
Right.
And the baseball world is very, very small. And I feel like that relates to that so much. And you guys are both very similar on, when you talk about players that you used to play with or current players. I feel like the common theme is, being a good quality player, both on and off the field, and how you treat your teammates, right? Those things go a long way with adding, to the chemistry and the whole total package. So very, very cool.
Lacey, most of your great players are really, really good people.
Yeah.
Because it's too hard to be great for 15, 17, 19, 20. It's really hard. You have to have a certain kind of constitution. And that's one thing that really can't get measured as to what is in a guy's makeup, and what he got from his parents, how he continues to go about his business and understand the responsibility of the name that's on the front of his uniform. So most of your all-time greats, and I'm sure CC would feel the same. I've been very fortunate to go all the way back to Aaron and Ernie Banks, Mays, Gibson, and all those guys, and Koufax, and there's Jeter, and the players that come up, now. There's special people, DJ LeMahieu, these people, the big left-hander in with the Dodgers, Kershaw. These guys are good people, and so it's nice. It's a special feeling. Albert Pujols, they're quality guys. You can't do what they did, as I nod to CC. You can't be that good for that long and be a bad guy. It's too hard.
Absolutely. So now let me ask you guys, what's the best advice that you've ever received, whether when you were a child or throughout your career? And what advice would you give to young players now that are aspiring to be a professional ball player?
I think going back to what Reggie just said, my best advice was just to stay humble. And I got that from my mom and my grandmother. It would always be, I grew up playing sports, and they were, the catalyst of that. My mom and my grandma never missed a game. My grandmother never missed a game until she passed away my senior year of high school. No matter whether, I would have a good football game, score 3 touchdowns, get in the car, and I'd be all excited. My mom be like, "Well, some kid in Texas that probably scored 6 touchdowns today, so you should probably go work out." You know what I'm saying? She would always make it a point to not let me get a big head. I mean, literally, she would always do that. So it just made me stay humble and want to work hard and never take anything for granted. So I think that would be the best advice I got. And I think, giving advice to kids that play in the game is just have fun. I mean, people want to turn this into such a job for you, play travel ball, 60, 80 games a year. Just have fun with this game, because when it does turn into a job, it's really a job. When you play in the professional, you have to show up every day. It's a job. So right now, when you can enjoy it and have fun with your buddies and, try to go out and win in the summer, do that and just really enjoy and fall in love with the game.
I think the best advice I got was from my dad, who was a hard worker and taught me really to appreciate the opportunities I had in baseball, and that you had a chance to show people what you were made of by playing on the field. I was telling the story about my dad the other day and about George Steinbrenner. And George, if I was struggling or having trouble with the famous relationship I had with Billy Martin, George would call my father and say, Reggie's letting Billy get under his skin. He's not doing the job. He's not this and that. And my dad would tell George, well, I'm working. I can't see Reggie until Sunday, but I'll get him to come down to his brother's house, because my brother lived in Jersey, and I would drive down. But my dad kept me level-headed and made me appreciate the opportunity I had with the Yankees and to be able to provide for family and things like that, and made me stay on point when it comes to doing my job and not whining and complaining about outside stuff.
So this is going to be our last question for tonight. You guys have been amazing. You guys both know that I grew up in a baseball family, right? So my entire childhood is filled with some of my most favorite moments throughout my entire life, right? And with my family especially, we're very, very close, and we're constantly reminiscing at the dinner table, just randomly throwing out our favorite memories and stories. Remember this? So it's very much a part of who we are today. And so what I really want to know is, what are some of your favorite moments and memories that you shared with your family throughout your career?
Oh, man, I think for me, we had kids so young. I think I was 22 and Amber was 21 at the time when we first had little C. So he kind of like grew up with me in the game, to be honest. And just these last couple years, you know, I would bring him to the clubhouse, and he had more in common with my teammates, and I would have more. You know, I was an old guy in the clubhouse, and I bring him in, and you know, everybody's at my locker for that day. You know, Judge and GT and all those guys. So just having them being able to grow up a baseball family. Going to the All-Star game last year, you know, three of my 4 kids were born in Cleveland. All-Star game was in Cleveland last year. We got to go to the house where they grew up and, you know, spend some time there. So really just the whole thing, like my whole career and kind of having, you know, kids coincide with it. You know, little C being in the celebration when we won the World Series. I still have great pictures of that. I'm looking at one right now. So just all of it. You know, I think they appreciate it. I know I definitely appreciate the sacrifices they made for me to be able to play 20 years, especially my wife. So I mean, I owe it all to them, and I think, you know, the whole thing was just a great memory for us. I mean, you know, my 10-year-old right now, he can't understand why he can't go to the playroom. You know, he's looking for Ben Romine. I'm trying to tell him that Romine's playing in Detroit now, so even if you went down there, you wouldn't see Ben. So they just don't understand that baseball's over. You know, they've grown up in it for so long.
I think that, you know, after my career was over, I had a chance to go to the Hall of Fame. And my father and parents were there, in all family and friends, George Steinbrenner and Charlie Finley and several of the managers that I played with. And it really was a wonderful, joyous time for me to be able to experience that. And have all your friends enjoy it with you, friends and family. You know, whether, you know, same thing for when I went to college and played baseball, had an opportunity to play. My mom and dad were divorced when I was 6 years old. And my parents got together for those times when we were together and when I brought them together. And it, you know, really made for really nice moments. I think the Yankee experiences in New York, for me, and I think almost any player, no matter who you are, I'm sure CC's included here, the experiences that you have in Yankee Stadium, with its history of Ruth and Gehrig and, you know, all those guys, DiMaggio and Mickey and Whitey and Yogi, when you have, and when you're part of that, it's significantly special. And so you are humbled. You're happy about it, but I mean, you know, CC could have stayed in Milwaukee. I could have went, you know, to another team, and it just wouldn't be the same with the experience that you have there of participating in postseason and the World Series. Just really nice for me to go around town and be part of the city and be part of people's lives that are in the past. And as you get older, then the memories get better. I'm a much better player now than when I played because of the memories that people have and the things they tell you. And there's so many things that people will come up and say to me, and whether I remember it or not, I always say, yes, I do. And thank you very much. And it's just a nice experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much, and fans, for joining us for our New York Yankees Legends Zoom panel. And again, a very special thank you to Mr. Reggie Jackson and Mr. CC Sabathia. Don't forget, fans, MasterCard is bringing fans priceless baseball experiences at home all season long. Just visit priceless.com/baseball to learn more.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks again, guys, and stay safe, everyone.
Thanks for the priceless experience.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Damn, that's it. So I guess we can call that the show. They just took me off the show just like that, so it ended. They just ended it just like that, man. I know they only did like 5 questions of the fans, and they were pretty like general question. It wasn't like no like big question, like serious question. They were like general questions, basically. I don't know, cause I asked it a few times, and I had a few questions for Cece about games and stuff like that, and they didn't answer none of that. I hope so. I was on the panel, but my mic was off. But they couldn't hear me though, cause they had my mic off. Yeah, they were just general questions, man. So anyway, I guess yeah, they always basic stupid questions. But anyway, I guess I'm gonna end it here. Want to thank you for watching, man, and we're gonna talk about baseball on the first inning when Roger fixes his phone and gets it working again. But really, the Yankees just gotta win. It's the final week, so next week is the playoffs. So hopefully, they get the ball rolling. They were on their own thing, but I guess they were just talking to that one. I guess the lady was the mediator. I guess, you know. I think I was in a. It was in a room of like 30 people or something like that. So, I guess everybody had their own camera, and they could, I guess, these see themselves too. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it here, man. Thank you for watching, and I'm gonna catch up with you later. I'm gonna get ready for the game and watch the game, and hopefully the Yankees win and start winning. Everybody, follow me on social media right here, and this is the first inning. See you, everybody, and so long. I'm out of here.